Well, welcome to today's rant. Got a lot to talk about. We'll do the natural first, then the spiritual. What is the probably big news item today, or what is dominating the news, is the book by Michael Wolff, Fire and Fury, about the Trump administration. And it's really a slow news day when that's all you've got to talk about. But so we'll discuss it too. We think there are some important lessons here, and just the few parts of the book where I feel like I have personal knowledge of. I'd say the book is totally wrong, if not the opposite of the truth. And according to the White House, it's pretty much across the board. And the author, Michael Wolff, doesn't have a good reputation for accuracy. Even other journalists are speaking out today and, against this and saying, it's really a sham and a shame. It hurts journalists, it hurts journalism. But probably the person who's going to get hurt the most is Steve Bannon, former advisor to the president, was dismissed some months ago, but is still, I think, was hoping to be a major player in politics in America. And in my opinion, he just absolutely killed any potential for that with what he did with this book. Now, the people who hate Trump want to believe any bad thing about him, and do. They believe all the bad. They don't even listen to anything good said about him. And in the media they listen to, there's usually not much good said about Trump, or even all the incredible things he's accomplished. They don't cover those things. But I think they're the only ones who are going to really feed off of this book. They'll probably make it a bestseller. The liberals are touting it right now. But Steve Bannon was kind of a conservative voice. He was really respected and appreciated by many. I think this killed all of that. Can't believe some of the things that he said, or supposedly said, according to the author of this book, Michael Wolff. But, the thing is, liberals are making Steve Bannon a hero now, when he was like the scourge of the earth before this book came out. Now they're making him a hero, and trust me, that won't last. They will dump him just as soon as they have finished using him. But he has killed any potential for conservatives to trust him or believe him going forward. Even the never Trumpers, even if they believe this was true, they'll never trust him again. You don't let a blabbermouth close to you like that. And he did have a confidentiality agreement with the White House, not to go, you can't do business in almost any sphere if you think things are going to be used, they're going to be twisted. You can't freely discuss things if you think somebody's going to share what you're just discussing and maybe even throwing out as ideas. You think they're going to be touted as something you believe or whatever. Nobody's going to want to say anything around you anymore, ever. Yeah, that's just the case. There's certain people that are going to misinterpret and misunderstand. I think, as I've shared before, it's been a long time now, but it used to be after almost every sermon I shared, people would come up to me and say they really appreciated me saying something that I know I had not said and I do not believe. And I was shocked that they would say it. Sometimes I thought I'd misspoken. I'd go back and check the tapes for a while and say, did I misspeak it? Did I miss it that much? And find out I had said it exactly the way I should have, and they had misinterpreted. We all have filters. As, the quote I shared with you the other day, how, people do not see things as they are, but they see things as they are. We tend to filter everything through it. So this book will get a lot of traction with the People don't like Trump. The people who do, who really know him, aren't going to believe any of it. So I don't think it has anything in it that's going to sway anybody. It just probably solidify people in their distrust of media, distrust of Steve Bannon. I mean, nobody's going to trust that guy again. He has just killed his future by doing this. And, I don't know what he was thinking. I always thought of him as a pretty smart guy. Didn't agree with the way he did things, but I generally agreed with a lot of what he sought to accomplish, is just some of his tactics and methods I thought were a little harsh and overboard. But he's killed himself with both sides. It's kind of like Benedict Arnold. The British didn't trust him. They're not going to trust a traitor, even though he came to them and benefited their cause and all. When he betrayed General Washington and the Patriots, the British didn't trust him anymore either. They didn't want to have anything to do with him. Of course, he couldn't live in America anymore, and the whole Patriot cause. I mean, he just spent the rest of his life in virtual isolation and depravity. That's what happens to traitors, and this is betrayal. No question about it. So you don't betray trust. I know sometimes, when, we have circles. I host a roundtable meeting and things like that, and we share things that go on and said there. But when I feel like there's someone who's just going to run out and post everything on Facebook or whatever, and especially knowing how often people misunderstand, misinterpret. They may be trying to do good and help you, but they do damage because they don't get it right. And you just don't trust people like that. You don't want them in your inner circles for anything serious or important. So Bannon I think he's gone. I think he's banned. He has banned himself. He's hurt himself. I can't see how anyone could recover anybody's trust after doing something like this. But so he's going to be the big loser, and they'll make the left happy for a while. And but this kind of trash journalism too. It's kind of the age we live in. Now, people are saying, look at how low Trump's approval ratings are. I think they're extremely high. One thing, I think we're crazy if we trust the polls anymore. But even the polls are showing him rising pretty fast. He's up to almost 50% approval rating, which is pretty high for a president. Listen, we live in cynical times. I think anything north of 40 is outstanding. And most presidents, if they do their job right, their approval ratings are going to hover probably between 20 and 30% because they're going to be making a lot of people mad with almost anything they do, even if it is the perfect, best, in some cases, the only thing they can do, because, this government for so long has been run by people who tend to give away everything to ever get back in any kind of well-run government where the government is not your God, not your source, and that people have to become more responsible themselves, for themselves. You're going to make virtually everybody in America mad now because almost everybody has the entitlement mentality now. There are other things that people are just going to not like. And we tend to be cynical. We tend to see things we tend to not trust our government, which I think it has not been trustworthy, understood, and we tend to not trust what anybody's doing. So approval ratings, are just never going to be, I think, at the place that they may have been 10, 20 years ago. We're past those times. And it's just going to take a while to get them right. Now, also, I think, some of the other news out today is the Clinton Foundation is finally being investigated. There's still calls for Sessions, Jeff Sessions, to remove himself, to resign as the Attorney General. It is shocking, no question, that it took this long to do that when there were such obvious violations. Everybody in the country knew, could see, both sides. One side will never admit it, but they know it. And, and it is, it does seem like our Department of Justice is rudderless right now. It's, for it to take a year, I don't know, it's crazy. And then you have the Uranium One deal, the classified info on their servers, pay to play. Uranium One deal, I mean, that could be a treason. That could be a treason trial. And many people think it absolutely should. The Clinton Foundation, where they would have huge contributions made to the Clinton Foundation, and then the people making those contributions would get access to Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State, and it seems like some foreign policy was affected by that. It's called pay to play. Or her husband would get these outlandish speaker honorariums. $500,000 from the Russians. Just before the Uranium One deal that gave the Russians 20% of our uranium reserves. Unbelievable. Besides, it seems like maybe $100 million was contributed to the Clinton campaign, but it went through Canada, so it wouldn't show up on our things. Here, there's stuff like that. This corruption on a level never dreamed of, but it's surfacing, and I think it has to be dealt with. If there's not justice for all, we're not going to have justice at all at some point. There will be a rebellion. You can't deny people justice, and you can't make a certain class of people seem like they're above the law. That won't last. But now let's think for a minute. How cynical is the church? We have all kinds of things going on in the church too, where there's growing cynicism in its leadership and all, and a lot of leadership has not been worthy of trust. It's what trustworthy means. And but we tend to think that if one or two or even a dozen have problems, that the whole thing is smeared. And all pastors are that way, or that's the way the church is. Not so. And I know from talking to the White House that I hear from them occasionally. I get on phone calls, conference calls, and stuff like that. And I went and visited Trump myself. And then when I was there in his office in Trump Towers, I immediately went to talk to his people. Just to see, you can really tell a lot about a person when you talk to their staff and the closest staff. And I thought this may be one of the best working conditions I've ever seen. That people were happy, they loved their boss, they loved Trump, they loved what they were doing, there was passion there was unbelievable hospitality, and just, it felt warm, it felt like a home more than an office. I said, this is amazing. And Trump himself just seemed very different than any picture of him I'd ever gotten through the media or anything else. Just so personable and warm. But I'll tell you something else about him. Unbelievably brilliant. I may have never met anyone like him. And I could tell some more details later, but anyway, the writer of this book attacking Trump, the Trump thing, trying to expose all this craziness, and everybody's in discord and disarray, the White House in disarray. It's the opposite. Those people are loving it there. They, for the most part, there's some that if you don't do a good job, you're gone. He's not going to waste the money of the American people, taxpayers' money. If you can't do the job, you're gone. But if you can do the job and you're there, it sounds like a great place to be. And every other Christian leader I know that has been there, been in the Oval Office, met with Trump, prayed for him. You see all the pictures regularly of all these leaders coming in and praying for me. That's pretty common. And they sense the atmosphere's tremendous. And listen, the guy is, you know, I don't know if I would call him a genius, but I've never seen anyone quite like him as far as being a big picture person and a detail person. He hears the details, and then he can pick out of any conversation what is really important and focus on it and then get the job done. He'll take it and run with it and take whatever action is required, and it gets done. And the people around him, they've got to do their jobs. They've got to get them done. But these are the people that are gathering to him now. And I prophesied before he took office, the first year, you may not want to be there. There's going to be a lot of coming and going, because he didn't know a lot of people, that are going to want these jobs, the politicians and everything else. And he's going to be someone who's going to require accomplishment. And a lot of people weren't doing their jobs. And they're going to have to go. But if you're a doer, if you're someone who loves to accomplish and you're that kind of get-her-done person, you're going to thrive in an atmosphere like this like no place else. I'm talking about the White House now. So, anyway, to me, it doesn't surprise me at all that a journalist would say that kind of atmosphere is whatever, or see it that way. He doesn't have any basis for seeing it that way, I think. But even if they would, it wouldn't surprise me, because they don't even understand leadership and management for the most case. I don't think many lawyers do. I don't think many of our congressmen do. I think it's just an enigma. But leadership is very different from politics. It's focus on the objective, get her done. And, what a lot of people are calling crazy is just good leadership and management that very few really understand. So anyway, I'm excited about all this stuff that's happening. It's going to turn into good. All things work together for good, for God, those who are doing the will of God, those who are called by Him. And but I wonder, as I mentioned before, about how the stuff happened in the church and how people became so cynical of church leadership. The Lord warned, whatever you loose in heaven is going to get loosed on the earth. And there is a really, really growing cynicism in the natural. Well, you know how we counter that? First thing, we've got to be those who bear fruit. Where our word is true, our word is good, where there is fruit, there is accomplishment for what we do. I saw an article today where the Democrat leadership is really worried about losing the millennials just because of the recent, tax reform that Trump accomplished. Because all of a sudden they're going to be getting bigger paychecks, bigger bonuses. Many are getting bonuses now they never dreamed they would get. Companies are because companies do that, and some of it is selfish on the part of the companies. They know to keep the good people, they've got to take care of them. But now they've got, all these big bonuses given out the end of the year. We have this is increasing incredible optimism. $6 trillion added to our economy just by the stock market running up. I mean, the millennials are saying, we're getting it pretty good. Do you see where even some of those Bernie supporters were interviewed and they thought, this is great. This is awesome what's happening. Listen, why would anybody have a problem with the government saying, we're going to let you keep more of your money, we're going to take less of your money from you in taxes and let you keep more? Who doesn't love that? The millennials love it. Everybody loves it. Government doesn't manage our stuff. We'll manage it a lot better. And it's already having an incredible impact, and millennials are getting it. Some of them are really getting it. And the Democrats, that's why I think Nancy Pelosi said this is Armageddon. I really think she knows how devastating that tax reform is going to be to the Democratic Party, who not one single member of the Democratic Party voted for us to be able to keep more of our money and the government take less from us. I'm just saying. So, the fruit bears out. And I think if we're those two who are constantly being attacked, if you're not being attacked, if you're getting flack, it's because you're over the target, they say. So the fact that Trump is attacked like this tells me he is really over the target doing his job and all the rest. And if the church is getting all these attacks and slanders and everything, in spite of it all, pastors were way down there. At one time, we were lower than lawyers in trustworthiness in these general studies and polls that were taken. Now journalists are at the bottom, but pastors and church leaders, Christian leaders, have been rising pretty quick in stature again as some of the most trusted professionals. Well, I'm happy for that. I'm not as concerned, though, about the way people see me as I am the way God sees me. He's the one I'm going to have to stand before, and he's going to have me and you and every other human being give an account for what they were given and what they did with it. And to be trustworthy, I want to be trustworthy before him first. But we need to be trustworthy. We need to be worthy of people's trust. I think Trump is winning more and more people over as they see the results. And they see that he is not at all the way the media is generally projecting him. I'm just saying, he really is not that way. He really loves his country, really loves people, and he wants to do a good job for us. And he wants to ensure that everybody who works for the government does a good job for us too. Things are changing up there in a profound way, and that he's just getting started. Let's be sure that all of the resources that we're entrusted with in our ministries, in our churches, let's inquire of the Lord. Be sure that that every single penny that we're trusted with, every nickel, everything dedicated to the Lord is holy. This is holy, and we want to use it with the utmost trust. And where, we don't let it get wasted. We don't allow fraud. We don't allow, carelessness with the things of God. We're serving the King of Kings. So maybe if we rise up and start releasing more and more trustworthiness, which turns into faith, you're going to see it overcoming the cynicism of our times. I'm just saying. Thank you for joining me for today's rant. Thank you so much for your comments and your likes and also, sharing these with your friends. But anyway, may the Lord meet with you today. And that's my prayer for every one of God's people, that we have an encounter with him every day, that we receive manna from heaven every single day, and that every day we go to bed closer to him than when we woke up. And I pray that for you today too. God bless you, and thank you for joining me.